Hey, welcome back to the channel. This week I'm going to be working on a couple of different things. First of all, pulling the sniper out and putting the original carb back in the truck and using that to get the timing and the engine running correctly. Next I'm going to be prepping the wood for the rear bed for bed liner and actually installing that. I'm going to be putting the replacement glass, it's actually the spare glass that I got from the green truck, into the red truck, and then finally fighting the mechanical fuel pump to get that working. This is the fuel pump that I got from that I actually used in this truck earlier. It's not working for some reason, so I replaced it with an electric fuel pump. So let's get started. I'm setting up a new fitting for the fuel pump, just getting this all set up and flared and ready to go. I'll install that and then I can start putting the hoses and everything on the truck next. Whoa! Update. New fuel line is in. It's plumbed in to the carb here. The old ones are disconnected from the carb, and I plugged them off with some fittings here and some neoprene washers. All of the wiring is disconnected, and I've got it zip tied up here so it's up off of the manifold. What I'm going to do next is fill the bowl with gas and see if I can get the fuel pump to load and prime the tank, and then I will see about getting this thing out on the road for a little bit. Oh, nope, can't do that because I have no inlet from the fuel tank. All right, so we are now ready to fire this thing up whenever we're ready. Both of the original, or I should say, both of the new fuel hoses are capped off. I've got some grommets there, those are capped off. I've got the new fuel line coming in from the mechanical pump up here to the carb, that goes in there. And there's another fuel line down here that goes down into the tank. I pulled out the lead from that goes into this line here. It's down and it's capped off at the very bottom there. All of the wires are basically disconnected, and they're zip tied off, so they're not going to get in the way. So this thing is ready to fire off. I've not been able to get anything out of this pump yet up into the fuel filter, and I suspect it might be because of this fitting that I made myself. So I'm going to replace this fitting with a proper fuel fitting, and then I'm going to start this thing and see if I can get it to run. And if not, I've got another fuel pump sitting over by the over on my bench that I'm going to swap in for this one. I pulled this thing off and found that that fitting looks a little bent. So I think there has been some issue with this thing. When I pulled the out valve off, or the hose off of the out spout here, nothing came out. But when I pulled the hose off the inlet, gas did come out of this. So there's something going on within this unit. I'm not sure what. So I pulled this unit off. This unit is now going on, and it has the actual fittings. The other thing I found out was that I brought this one to the auto parts store to get the proper fittings for it, and then I got these fittings home and found that that fitting is a different size. Why can't people just standardize on a goddamn fitting? I don't get it. Anyway, this one's going in. This fuel pump is never going to work. If you notice here, this is the mount for the front engine mount, and it comes up directly against the inlet and outlet here for this fuel pump. So the original pump is back in the truck. This is the one that I knew was working. It had worked before. It's got that bend thing in there, but it's got a fitting. I think maybe the fitting wasn't airtight. This one should be. It's a brass fitting. Pumps back in. I put another gasket on there, so there's actually two gaskets on there just to get it up and off this thing a little bit, but let's try starting it and see what happens. So I'm going to show you, this is the original fuel pump off of the red truck. This is the fuel pump off of the green truck that I pulled off of, or that pulled off 2 years ago. This is the fuel pump all the parts stores tell me will fit my truck. It does not. These two things down here bump into the motor mounts, and so I know this will not fit the Travelall. This will most likely fit the Scout. These are the new fittings I bought for it. I'm going to leave it on there, throw it in the spares box. That'll be good. Finding rebuild kits for these is hard. I think they exist, but I think they are expensive. I'm going to see if I can find one for this. I like the ones that have the glass bowl. I know that this will not hit the motor mounts, and I could even spin this around some more. I could, unbolt this and spin this element around so that it misses even further, because it actually does sort of hang toward the motor mount a little bit. But you'll notice that both of these, they hang off the side at about the same angle. It's the next morning, and what I've done is disconnected the fuel pump, put my electric pump in, and basically I'm priming this now. So if I hook this up, I am in fact getting fuel, so I'm going to fill the bowl and run the engine and see if the idle is decent. It was like idling very, very high. It basically was like racing the engine before. Sort that out and then see if I can take her out for a spin. Alright, so there's a giant vacuuming leak in the back of this thing that's not plugged. Let's see if this doesn't overspeed this time. That's already sounding better. The idle's still a little high, but I think I can roll with this for now. Okay, so here's a couple things I've learned. Number one, if I'm going to run this thing with the regular carb, I definitely have to hook the choke back up again. Not a problem. That's a pretty easy thing to do. I still have the original cable in there. Install that in front of the library. I think that was because the choke was completely closed and it was unhappy. Second thing, it's bogging down on acceleration, so I've got to figure out what's going on there. I don't know if that is the accelerator pump, which was fine when I pulled this carb apart earlier. We'll see. Third is that I've got the timing back down to about 8 degrees. and it seems to be happy there. I had closed off, there was a big port on the back of the thing that was open that I think I had missed for weeks. That's now closed off. The engine seems much, much, much happier. I should say the carb seems much happier. And the timing is way back down. What that would have to do with the timing on the sniper, I have no idea. But I'm not worried about the sniper right now. This thing is running. I got to get it more dialed in, but at least with the electric fuel pump, it's running. So I think what I will do next is, when I have some time, is hook the mechanical back up now that the whole system is primed, and see if I can see if that works. If that works, I'll leave that on. If it doesn't, I found a rebuild kit for the original mechanical fuel pump that came in this thing. It's about 50 bucks. I'll buy that, rebuild that pump, put it back on here, because that will be out of the way of the engine mount, which was the problem I was having before. And I can get that thing set up and run it off of that. So that's the game plan for right now. But I had a successful drive in this thing, finally. We have more to dial in, but we're getting closer. Here's an interesting wrinkle. The channel on this side actually is broken. I didn't know that. I'd never really looked in here too carefully. This side over here came out pretty easily, but this side is broken, so I'll have to swap this out with the one from the green truck when I get it back in. Once again, I'm always happy to have spares, because then I can figure out what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to pull this door handle off, because you can see here, this door looks like garbage. I did a whole bunch of work on it, I think it was last year. Cleaned it up, ground out a bunch of the rust holes and everything. The paint, this is just the rattle can red that you get from Tractor Supply, IH Red. I want to redo this, but the one thing I wasn't able to do when I did this originally was clean up the rust around the door handle here. So while I've got the back out of this thing, while I'm working on it, I'm going to pull this off. And I was trying to remember, I know there's the one screw here that's already out. I know there's one behind here, and I'm just trying to figure out where it is. It's funky, it's at an angle, and it's in this corner, and it goes that way. And there it is right there. I would have banged against this thing for years and years, thinking that it was somewhere, you know, over here or here or something hidden. So I'll pull that out and hit this door. You can see here what I'm up against. So I'll pull out the sander and I'll grind this stuff out and clean it up. try to get it as smooth as I can, so I can basically just shoot this with another can of Rust Stop for now and clean it back up. But it'll be nice to have that fixed before I put the door back together. All right, so something interesting with the original felts that came on my truck, which are these two in the center, left and right, and the ones off of the 68. These actually are metal. That's like some kind of metal, and the foam, or the felt is laid inside this. And then there's a metal channel that goes on the bottom here on this one. This one looks like an interior. It's integral to this piece. This one's got a channel that goes over top of it, which is interesting. Neither of these have any of that. It's just basically like a fabric, and then there's, I don't know if you can see, there's like a corrugated metal in here, and that's basically the only thing that gives this strength. So when I go back, when I get the money and do the felts on these things, I'll pull these back out and I'll relay felt inside these channels. But for now, all I'm going to do is just hit these with a wire wheel, clean them up, hit them with some Rust Stop, and put them in the truck. So I've got windows in the truck. Here's what we look like after feathering everything out. These are going to have divots in them, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of filler and put some filler in here to smooth them out a little bit. I have done this with varying degrees of success in the past. This door actually looks pretty good. You can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4 coats of paint on this thing, and whatever that white layer is like super thick. Actually, it might be 5 on here looking at this thing, because there's like a very light red, and then there's a dark red, and then there's a gray, and then there's a white, and then there's this red, and then there's actually gray. I think the gray is something that I sprayed on here, and then there's, whatever I threw on top of this thing. It's actually pretty thick, and I was actually able to smooth these parts out, even though the cover paint looks like garbage. But in other places, I am seeing that some of my quick repairs, like there's some areas along the hood here, you can see some divots, and I don't like that so much, so I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit better before I put everything back on here. So let's mix up some filler, and we'll throw this on. I've rust stopped and sprayed the inside of the door here to clean that up. I just put 2 new clips in. The rails are in on either side. Down here, I don't know if you can see that. Wipe the door down. This black channel is back in. The new window is in, which is great. And right now, I just sprayed this with some primer. That indentation right there is the hole that the door goes, the handle goes through. and then I just need to knock this stuff off when this cures, and that should be good. Then I can just hose this door down. I'll wipe it down with some acetone and then hose it down with that red rattle can to clean it up, and this should be pretty much ready to go. And then I can just put the door handle back in. But very happy to have the new window in here. Just please God, Bill, don't break it. And then I think I will try to fire this thing up and maybe take it for a spin. Here's the door after sanding and spray bombing. Again, this little divot here is where the hole is for the other part of the handle, but I think that's better than it was, and it's not rusting anymore. If I look at it from the side, I mean, it'll get another coat or two, but it looks pretty flat to me, and it's nice to have that stuff cleaned up as well. I really would love to just do a quick tape off and hose this thing down with red paint, but that's far in the future. That's not today, and that's not this year. This wood has two full coats of this stuff. It's a Rust-Oleum wooden fiberglass above the waterline primer. It's an oil-based primer on a 3/4 slab of oak. So next to this is going to get some serious undercoating or something. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to be yet. One side will get undercoating, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger and buy, there's a rubber, it's basically a rubber flooring or pad that you can get off of Amazon, actually, that is just the right width for this. The trick is going to be knowing what adhesive to use that doesn't pull up in the heat or stink or, you know, whatever. I've got to figure out what I'm going to use for that. Here's my piece of wood with one coat of Raptor liner on it. I did some on the sides and the top, or the bottom as the case may be. I think what I'm going to wind up doing is just coating this whole thing in Raptor liner, both sides, because then I don't have to worry about the rubber thing, and I can just throw this on the floor and call it good for the time being, and I can do the rubber thing when I want to. So I think for now, I'm going to let this dry overnight, and then I'll flip it, and this weekend I'll hit the other side with a coat. I've got enough to do the other side with one bottle, and then I can probably do both sides with the second bottle. I mean, I really want to coat this thing good so it's got plenty of protection. Here's what the rear floor looks like in the truck. This is just one coat of Raptor liner. It's got one coat on the front and the back and all the sides. I've got another whole application of Raptor liner that's going to go on this thing. So I'll put another coat on the bottom and another coat here on the top, and that'll do it for this thing for the time being. I think that should be good enough to basically coat it and keep it dry and waterproof, and then I can actually start countersinking the bolts in there and actually mounting it to the truck. So yeah, it's in here for now. I just need another couple of rollers, and I can redo this again tomorrow. Here's the rear platform. It's just got hit with a second coat of Raptor liner, and I've countersunk all of the holes for the bolts that will go into this thing. Try to make them as even as possible, and I've fixed the mounts that are inside the truck. So the mounts have these square, I forget what these are called, but they're basically like removable captive nuts. They're not welded in, and they're slightly movable, or they're slightly adjustable once they get in the truck. They're held in with these little wings. You pop the wings out and they fall in inside. A bunch of these came out. A bunch of these I had to drill out. They weren't. It was actually, I was quite surprised at how many of them I was actually able to get out just with my hands. They were Phillips head bolts, and so what I've done is pulled as many out as I can, clean them up, and then put them around the perimeter of the truck and then across the main beams here, so that when I put the actual plate in, the actual floor in, it'll be, you know, firm and solid, and it won't, you know, rattle and bounce. So I have to wait for this to dry, and I'm going to flip it over. I'll do the bottom side with a second coat of the Raptor liner, and then the next thing I've got to do is basically, there's a plate right here, you can see the outline of it. This is the bottom half, or the bottom of the old piece. This is actually a piece of metal, and what this metal does is, the metal is actually a heat shield for the exhaust, which goes right there. Here's how the bed looks now. This is 2 coats of Raptor liner over 2 coats of marine primer, which is like an oil-based primer. So this has got a whole lot of protection on it, and same underneath. And then I pre-drilled these holes, and you can see I've started bolting in. Ace Hardware ran out of stainless bolts, so I've got to find about, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 more bolts to really put this thing in good. I'll have to get some longer bolts and some other stuff, but I've got to get that finished up. And then this is in place for the time being. I think it's going to be fine. This stuff seems to be pretty sturdy, so we'll see how that goes. Before I did that, you can see I hit the inside edges with a whole bunch of rust stop, I'd like wire brush them and then hit them with rust stop to make sure that, you know, that stuff is clean. And then you can also see here, the door is back in place. And the window, this is the window from the green truck, and this is in place. That turned out really well. I'm really happy with that, so I can call that project good. So that's going to do it for this video. The next couple of videos are going to be a bit different. I'm going to be helping my friend Brian, scout friend Brian, with an EV project. It is international related, more details on that to come, but like I said, the next couple of videos will be a fair bit different. They're going to be over at his place. I'm going to be going over there for the next couple of weeks on my sabbatical and helping him do that. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy it. As always, I've got some merch for sale. And as always, every dollar you spend there goes back into these trucks, so I do appreciate it. Thanks very much.